Change is good. Stick with us.
Hey, how are you?
Good. As I was saying, it's me, Adam, Riot, and this is John Migliore, as he might say sometimes, or Migliore, if you want to be, fancy about it. But people who have been to Terrible 2-Day Fest in the past or follow Riot of the movie stuff will know of me mentioning John a fair bit and being a Schlocktastic Award winner for the 2020 ooh, the fancy gold. Now, the last time that there was 2 awards, last year we only did 1. We'll see if we come back with the Schlocktastic again this year.
Wow.
So you're technically the last one of that intercontinental belt, as I like to consider it.
Wow, nice.
More for the wackier event. That was for Curse of the Bloody Voodoo Sock Puppet.
That's right.
Which it's still available to order for people to get. If you had a Kanuki run.
Yeah,
there.
it's I'll have to check if the DVD is still available. I think it is. But the DVD, I'll send you a link. The DVD should still be available, and you can buy it for to watch streaming on the Survival Zombie Films Vimeo channel for I think it's $1. That's worth $1.
It absolutely was. We charged $2 for people to come see it at that event, at the last screening we did before the world went to insanity.
Yeah.
With that in mind, that reminds me, the first time I met you in person was in Toronto at the probably only theater screening of Ouija Shark. That was
I don't know. I don't know if it ever played anywhere else.
Yeah, which was about 3 weeks before Canada really kind of came to terms with what was happening in the pandemic and everything went crazy. And somehow along that process, you have decided to direct a sequel to it.
Yeah, I was contacted by Wild Eye Films about a sequel, and I pitched an idea for it, and they liked it, and so I spent the whole last year working on it. It was a full year of work.
Well, everyone's had to figure out how to do new ways to make these things possible with the pandemic and so forth. We've had, restraints and whatever, and we have to figure out a new way of doing things. You and Brett kind of jumped on that pretty quickly, though. Brett was immediate to figure the cut and paste and people send in their own things and green screen people in and do things from a distance projects with that. I'm mixing it. Is it Kong TNT or TNT Kong? It's Kong TNT.
Conga TNT.
Conga TNT.
Yeah, Conga
right.
TNT.
Yeah. Which was not the only film that you then appeared in after the fact of a giant ape-like monster attacking. Because don't you also later appear in the other edit of Zillafoot or Footzilla? Because every time I say it, I'm like, no, it's Zillafoot, but it should be
it's Zillafoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Zillafoot. Yeah. That was one where I just saw Ron Bonk from SRS say online, we're looking to get this movie to feature length if there's anybody that can shoot their own scenes. And that one was funny because he wrote me and said, okay, what I need is it's an outdoor scene where you're watching a spaceship arriving and you're talking to somebody. I don't know if you're going to have a phone or a walkie-talkie, whatever. He kind of left it up to me. And so you need to be talking to somebody who we're going to, you'll work with to get the scene done, even though he's in a different location. And, we need this outdoor scene. And then he sent me the footage that came after my scene. And I said, okay, so this is kind of it looks like spring, summer. He's like, yeah, that's right. And I'm like, okay, you do realize it's January in Canada, right? And so I did shoot, but in studio and just made it look like outside for that scene. And that's a pretty cheesy movie, man. You would enjoy that one, I think, if you haven't already seen it.
I have seen both. I now have the cut with you in it, but I decided to actually purchase that one, but out of my own plans. But and I believe I've told you this, but the original cut of that played right after Voodoo Sock Puppet at
Oh, that's
Terriblefest.
hilarious. Yeah, yeah.
So after people had got through yours, then the original cut of that, which is a lot more lagging, even that it's only an hour long, there's a lot of like, where is this next scene going in that movie? And so there's a whole bunch of the audience who just sort of went silent at that point of it. They'd already gone through like 3 films and then got to that as the last thing. I was like, this is important. This is a son of Apollonia, but people just didn't have the energy at that point. So
Yeah.
I told everyone, well, it's going to be different when it comes out, and give it a chance then when you have some more strength and more energy, because I had put the audience through the ringer at that point. So that was a little unfair. But
That's what we used to call, back in the day. I'd invite friends over and we'd watch one bad movie after another. And sometimes they'd still be at my house at 1 a.m. and I'd be like, okay, I need something that's going to clear the room. So that's a room clearer, right? You just get them out.
well, I mean, again, would it have been a room killer at a different time? I don't know. Like I said, I watched it again myself in the lengthened cut, and I was fine with it. Yeah, it's the son of Mark Polonia doing his first thing out there. So we'll see what's next with that. I can never resist anything with the name Polonia in it. So bring it on, guys. But what my thought was with now it's not out yet, but I'm sure, well, if Wild Eye knows what they're doing, they will release it fairly quick, the sequel to Ouija Shark. So my thought is with 2 years ago, it was about 2 weeks before I did Terrible 2-Day Fest that they screened the first Ouija Shark. And then what I'm thinking is, right after my festival, I hopefully will have got my order from Wild Eye and will receive a copy of part 2. Then I'll do something to screen it, and that will cause the pandemic to end. I think that's how it will happen. It will capture.
That would be good.
Ouija Shark will be the reason that caused this whole thing. You've cured it by making the sequel.
I'm behind that. That would be great if it put an end to everything. That would be fantastic.
Ouija Shark's such a funny thing because it's definitely one of those bad movies, B movies, whatever you want to call it, that is great with a group of people, because when the amount of people who saw it at that little theater that I don't think that has survived the pandemic at this point. I will see what happens to that place. Amazing old theater.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it spent a lot of time closed just before that, so we'll see what happens. But that's the wonder of old property in Toronto. But there's a whole bunch of people there who I'm sure had no idea what they were getting into. They didn't know who you were. They didn't know who Brett was. They didn't know what this film was, and they were still enjoying it for whatever their personal reason is, all different reasons. But people were definitely like, they were laughing at the right parts. There were people who were
that's
laughing
true.
At bad parts, but there are definitely people laughing at the parts that are supposed to be laughed at. But then you saw the reviews afterwards, like the ones that your basic online reviewer guy, the trucker hat wearing, a little bit more beardy than me guy, is doing online, who just watched it at home on his computer. And they first get the problem that Wild Eye has with a lot of films, which I think is personally great. I love it, that their covers are so wild and so crazy.
Yeah.
And then you see the film and their first reaction is, it doesn't look anything like this film. I'm like, dude, you've reviewed like 20 Wild Eye films. You think you'd be used to that by now?
Yeah. I'll tell you about that with Wild Eye. They put out a movie of mine called Poltergeist Encounters. It was the first movie that they ever put out of mine. And they had a cover of this, like, I don't know, woman kind of stuck on a wall doing some contortionist thing. And there's absolutely nothing like that in the movie. And I called them and said, hey, I just met an actress that does all this great contortionist stuff. And, I bet I could get her to come back and we could film an extra scene and put it in the movie and actually have something that reflects the cover. I mean, it would take a little bit of work for us to do that, but I could do it. And they said, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have, it's all right.
A little bit after they released Ouija Shark, they released Seb Godin's Ouija Mummy, which
Mhm.
is hilarious to me. I like Seb a lot, and it has a great cameo by Joel Wynkoop. But the cover again is this epic, like
Yeah.
the Mummy.
Yeah.
Like it looked like the Tom Cruise Mummy that came out a couple of years, like a year before that. But that movie is not like that. And
Yeah.
the great thing about both of them is that they're self-aware and they get it. If the audience doesn't get that both those Ouija movies get it, they're missing out anyway.
Yeah.
But the problem with being in the pandemic is a lot of people have watched a lot of these films by themselves. And the great part about watching B movies, especially hokey and cheesy B movies, be it on purpose or not, because that's an interesting thing with Brett Kelly. Sometimes he is very aware of it, and sometimes he seems like he's doing it completely straight, which has made me always curious about Brett's stuff. But if you're seeing it by yourself, you're not totally getting the experience. There's an experience of seeing it with a bunch of people.
You have to have at least one other person who gets it with you. My son and I, and we watch a lot of, B movies, and I actually we watch a lot of everything together. But we watch a lot of B movies, and we get it. So I watched maybe about a week ago for the first time ever, The Amazing Bulk, and man, did we laugh and laugh and laugh. It was amazing. And then it lost me for a while. Towards the end, there was a lot of really odd stock footage, and it lost me for a while. But basically speaking, I laughed a lot through that movie, and it was great to have my son there, because we kept looking at each other like, "Do you see this?" Yeah, I see. So yeah, you kind of need somebody.
That film has the fun part of it that when you do watch it with people, there's always someone saying, "Did they mean to do that? Is that supposed to be funny?" I remember the first time I saw that, and I showed it to my girlfriend, and it's one of the only movies I think I had to stop because I think she was in so much pain going through it that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna watch this later, because she just kind of started like holding her fists a lot.
The thing I loved about that was the total devotion to creating an absolute otherworldly experience. Because I'm like, okay, right now they're having a conversation sitting in a car, and the background's not real, and the car's not real, and we're looking at it, and there's nothing in it that looks real except for the two people sitting there pretending they're in a car. And I thought, couldn't they just shoot this in a car? But no.
That's an interesting issue I've had too, and I've, in my own editing way since the pandemic, have discovered my love-hate relationship with the whole green screen world. Because pre-pandemic, I'd see from large to medium films that would use it way too much, and you would think, why'd you do that? And then I'd start seeing these really weird, super low budget films where the kind of stuff I love, but it would have that exact moment where it's like, you just stand in front of a tree, you superimpose this guy in front of a tree so he would look like he was in the same place as the other actor, but the tree still doesn't look like the trees in the other shot. So why not just stand in front of any tree? However, that being said, I found them, especially post-pandemic, I never played with that stuff before. Now I play with it constantly, and now I start to just have wacky fun with it. I was once told by a music teacher in high school, if you play a wrong note, play it twice and call it jazz. So my concept is, if I'm, especially since with a lot of stuff we're doing them as a, if not fully comedy, at least a certain sense of comedy. If you're doing it and you're like, oh, it's going to be green screen, they know it's going to be green screen. All right, so I'm going to superimpose them in front of a tree that totally doesn't fit, as opposed to just a tree that slightly doesn't fit, because then they'll call me on it. Someone will say, well, that was done wrong. But if it's in Canada and then the other guy on the other side of the screen is in front of a palm tree, you're like, no one will question that. They'll think I meant to do that on purpose. So
you know what? Even in higher budget movies, you see it and you can't help but wonder. Like I just recently watched again for the first time a movie called The Hand, directed by Oliver Stone with Michael Caine. And Michael Caine's hand gets cut off, and then it crawls around killing people and doing things. And sometimes they're showing these close-ups of the hands around somebody's throat, like this, where you can't see the stump of the hand anyway, and they're committed to this rubber hand. I'm like, you could film that with a real hand.
Just anybody's hand. Yeah.
It's still the rubber one.
Which, and in the world of B movies, it's why I love finding out kind of behind the scenes and stuff like that. The commentary track is one of the most amazing things for especially the B movie world, because you get these weird insights you would have never thought. Like a director will say, well, we shot that all in open shots and we expected you to see the stump the whole time, but it looked so awful because something even worse was happening in the background, so we had to crop it. So our original plan was way anything different than what you thought, which you know, and when you're dealing with time restraints, budget restraints, all that kind of thing, your situation is, it can domino effect of how little the finished product is like the planned product.
Well, that DVD I have has an Oliver Stone commentary, and I should listen to that to see him try to explain his way around some of that stuff.
That's interesting, especially for Stone from his early days, that he had this real college kid cowboy outlook to it, and he still successfully is comfortable with looking back on it that way. He doesn't have any regrets of that. So hopefully his commentary track would do something like that.
Yeah, I hope so too.
You get certain directors who, and without naming names, because probably some of them might even be on my my chat groups, but some of them who are B movie guys who then try to like defend it, and like who would be like, well, I know I did that 10 years ago, but that meant a lot to me, so don't make fun of it. And I'm like, come on, it is what it is. Just if people enjoy it and they want to, if they actually want to listen to your commentary track, they obviously enjoy it to an extent. So you're good to go after that.
And I gotta say, as a guy that's been in a lot of indie movies, man, people throw a lot of crap my way. And you know what? I laugh most of it off. Or sometimes, like in the case of, you know, this sequel to Ouija Shark, there were things that people said that I was like, yeah, I can see that. I'll see if I can address that in some way. You know, like, yeah, try, but it doesn't mean, you know, there are people that no matter what you say and do, they're not going to like it. So, you know, you let it go off your back a little bit. And if there's anything that actually seems like it's, you know, relevant or helpful in some way, yeah, you listen. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
You know, it doesn't hurt, but at the same point, like I've said, I'm sure it's to say it's post-pandemic, I don't think is necessarily the case. It's just a lot of guys online who watch a lot of those movies by themselves because they see that it's become a trend on social media to just be a B movie reviewer, and you're doing it and you don't even like it. It feels like if I all of a sudden became a reviewer for like mainstream pop music, if I was to tell you that Justin Bieber album is terrible, why would you take my word for it? Like, I wasn't gonna like it ever. There was never, no matter if it was the best of what it was, I was never gonna like it. But
I've said the same thing about superhero movies for years, and it's kind of changing slowly. The Marvel movies aren't like this. DC movies, sometimes I still feel are like, you don't really like the subject of this movie, do you? And yet you're making it. And you kind of, sorry, I'm gonna swear here. Is it okay? I swear on.
I think so.
Like,
yes.
It's like hate. It's like hate fucking. You know, that's what's going on with some of these movies. They're like, I want to hate fuck this character. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
No, I mean, again, I'm not going to argue with the reason that people do $300 billion projects. You know, we're living in a world where you can't go on the internet right now without someone telling you how much they love Spider-Man. And as much as I enjoy the recent film as well, that's even a movie too, which uses return stock footage and weird fill-ins because, again, they had to. You know, there was limitations they had to deal with. So I'm not going to sit there and be that guy on the internet going, "Oh, that scene was used before. Oh God!" Because in the
80s. In the 80s, we were always making fun of the stock footage in all the cheesy movies we love to watch. And then in 1984, you know, opening night, I'm watching Return of the Jedi, and they cut to stock footage of the Death Star firing, and even the guys like turning away as it fires was stock footage from the first movie, and I was like, in Star Wars? But there it was.
The same footage that is as being a little kid when that was coming out, and those couple of shots of the like pushing the dial forward, that's
Yeah.
the reused bit. There must have been some sort of weird deal, because every cartoon at that time could use that footage, because on that year, like every cartoon at some point made a Star Wars parody, and they just directly cut to that footage. They didn't like redo it, they just used it. And there must have been some sort of deal where they're like, yeah, well, we reused it so anybody else can do it. And so before I'd even seen Jedi, I'd seen those shots, because the Muppet Babies did a bit, and then they were like, fire the Death Star, and then it just cuts to that scene, and then just cuts back to them again, like as if there's no joke there. It was just an excuse to use footage.
I think they tried to fool us by flipping the frame, right? So the guys that were ducking were on the left side instead of the right side, or vice versa. I'm like, yeah,
I've done that in the same movie.
Come on. Yeah, awesome.
I've done repetitive shots where I'm like, oh, I need to do that again. And I just flip the same shot, and who knows, or zoom in on it so it looks like it was a different shot.
Yeah, zoom in on it. That's a good one too.
I have a creeping hand that happens in my recent project, and I only filmed it twice. Yeah, exactly. Which that is done, and it's a creeping hand, but it's a hand with like it's a salad hand, we'll tell you that, to not spoil anything completely, but it's a hand made of salad. Okay. So we know where we're going here. I only did it twice, and then I was editing, and I'm like, oh, I need to do this 4 times. That joke, I redo the joke. I'll just zoom into the thumb and you'll know. But the next 2 times, every time it happens, it gets closer and closer. They'll think I just did it 4 times. And it fooled me when I went back and looked at it. I was like, oh yeah, I did do. Oh no, I just zoomed in. Okay, whatever. If I'm happy with it, that's all that matters to me nowadays. Actually, thinking of that, original Ouija Shark, directed by Brett Kelly.
Yeah,
he was the star.
Well, kinda. I was kind of like a bit player, really.
Yeah, you're the steal away star.
Yeah,
you're the guy everyone remembers at the end. You're not the star.
Yeah,
but you're the one that people remember at the end. You're the Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But now you're directing the second one. Brett has just, he's the last bit there, finishing his next film, Galaxy Warriors, which
looks good too.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. But he has said that that's his last film. I believe that's not the first time that you said you were gonna like, nah, I'm done. I'm done with this. It's
I was done after I've been done a couple of times. But the one you probably remember is after Creature from Cannibal Creek.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I really like this one. It turned out well. It's getting harder and harder to do these kind of films. The same kind of thing at Brett said. It's getting harder and harder to do these kind of films. I can kind of, oops.
That's also John, by the way. I can hear you. I just don't see you. We just saw a different picture.
Oh, there we go.
One of the other many times that you can see John on Tubi TV was you can see him in that face as well.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I must have touched something there. But I can't remember what we were talking about.
Saying why Brett said it was harder to do these films nowadays. So is it worth it going?
So I decided, you know what? I'm really happy with this one. If it's going to be the last one, that can be the last one. And I kind of told people that then I'm done. And then, like Godfather 3, I thought I was out. Right. So
I feel a lot of people will fall into the Ozzy Osbourne retirement thing. They retire more times than the Undertaker. It's you're like, okay, this hurts to do this nowadays. It's painful. It's difficult. It's not as fun. But then when you stop and you're not doing it, you're like, wait, no, it is fun. It is my DNA is in there. So we can all say we retired all the time.
It was COVID for me. I was out, and I was out for I would say a significant period where I thought, okay, this is great. I'm done. I told everybody I'm done. I'm not working on anything. I'll fix up the Johnny Goulash movie, Johnny Goulash Escapes from Creightonville, and I'll get a distributor. And I did. I thought, okay, great. That's good. Now one more thing from the past finished. And then I went, hey, how about Voodoo Sock Puppet? That's not complete. That's not out there. I'll shoot a few extra scenes. We'll complete it. We'll get it out there. Got that out there. And I went, there. Now I'm really done. Like, I got everything done. And then COVID came, and so boring, home all the time, whatever. And then people started saying, can you film something for me? Can you film something for me? And it's like, I never really got a chance to really dig into any kind of retirement because, out of sheer boredom, I was like, I'm going to keep doing this stuff while people are asking. So
if one is just flicking through Tubi TV right now at any point, you're going to accidentally come across John in some shape or form. I went in a week or so ago. I was because solo award winner Richard Mogg had a skit in Frames of Fear 3, and I'm just watching it through that. And also other commenter and friend of the genre, Rebecca Reinhardt, in there. And then all of a sudden, and our co-friend Mike, the music award winner from Terrible Two-Day Fest, is in there. And I had no idea who other people in the cast were. And there, all of a sudden, there is you being killed by an ancient Egyptian spirit.
Yeah. Well, wait, was that Frames of Fear? No, that was Fright Vision.
Oh, am I mixing? Are you not also in Frames of Fear as well?
You know what?
Like, I don't even know.
I don't even know. I'm pretty sure that was Fright Vision.
No, you're right. It was Fright Vision. Right, it was. Yeah, I those both had come up on Tubi in the last little while, and I kind of back to back them both. Now I have to go back, and I'm like, wait, there was, because the both of them, I just went through and I'm like, oh, I've talked to at least one person in every one of these skits. I went in for one specific reason because one person said, oh, hey, it's up there, watch it. Yeah, Rebecca said about Fright Vision because that's kind of her thing. And then Frames of Fear had a big thing with Richard. So going through both of those, and I'm like, yeah, everyone, that's what Frames of Fear did to me. That's why it burned me out, because right after Richard's is a Dustin Ferguson skit. And I was like, oh no, but Dustin didn't hear that, whatever.
I still have to see it. I haven't seen Frames of Fear 3. I need to see it.
Enjoyable. I enjoyed all the skits on all of them. They are all equally super weird. Same with Fright Vision, though, has this amazing ability for none of the skits to be similar, because again, they're all different artists doing their thing. They're all different people putting them together.
Right.
But has a wild change through skits. Yes, that's where you get melted away by an Egyptian spirit.
Yeah,
that was
a lot of fun.
An odd weekend for me, watching both of those back to back. Which, as I was then starting to edit an anthology as well, I think everybody's thinking, yeah, let's all do anthologies. Let's all of us do a 5-minute film and then just send it to each other, and then we'll make a feature out of it somehow.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And even one other time, we were talking about the whole retirement thing. One other time I did a movie called The Friday Night Death Slot, and I was going to follow it up with Space Monsters Must Die. And I must have worked on Space Monsters for a good year. And as things went on, it became clearer and clearer that it was going to be almost impossible to do, or that it might take me years to complete it. And so I finally came to the conclusion of, realistically, I can't finish this. And so that was it. I thought it was, again, it was, kind of a rough one for me, and I felt bad about it. And I kind of figured I was done. This is like back in 2016. And then my mom passed away, and that was all around the same time. And I spent months cleaning out her house, which was brutal, trying to get rid of all the junk in her house so we could sell it. And then somehow the last week, when the house was empty, just before it went to the new owners, I got this weird idea for a movie. We can shoot in an empty house. And I talked to a few people who were really good at ad-libbing, which was really important because we're basically going to film the whole movie, or most of the movie. I think we got 51 minutes of the finished movie shot in one night. and that became Poltergeist Encounters. And then that got a distributor, which surprised me. I didn't think it would, but it did. And it kind of led to other things. So I've kind of walked away a few times, and then, you know, you get lucky or some weird circumstance, and then you're back in again.
So, because then you blew me away with the title, and I was part of me. Then I was like, oh yes, I have seen Poltergeist Encounters, but
Yeah.
I was like, was waiting for you to say that somehow this led to you actually finishing Space Monsters Must Die, and I was like, I don't know this film. Like,
you know, I have lots of monster footage that I shot from Space Monsters, and it's funny because that's what exists out of Space Monsters. All the regular scenes of people interacting, I never shot them, but I have all these great monster scenes. I'll use them somewhere sooner or later.
I was gonna say there's a Don Dollar type film to be made out of this somehow. By the sounds of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the thing that was good about Space Monsters is I learned a lot, because it was hard, and it was hard to do. The special effects were incredibly hard to do, and what I wrote in my script was way more than I could do. And so I kind of learned from that. And then every movie I did since, I kind of started with, okay, what can I do? Like, what can I really do? Not, you know, some pie in the sky crazy. So, I mean, I learned a lot from trying to do that movie. And a lot of the special effects that are now in Ouija Shark, they didn't come from that movie. That's still its own thing that I'm holding off separately. But I learned so much about special effects, and a lot of the stuff that I learned, I applied in making this movie. Because this, I'll tell you, because I haven't talked about this movie really to anybody so far. This movie is like loaded with special effects. I cannot believe how many special effects are in this movie. So
with only the few photos that I've seen, it is not the first movie in any way.
No, and we have the first movie, so you know why you know, that's kind of, I always thought of, like with Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. When I came out of Empire Strikes Back, I was like, this is so different. Like I don't know what to think of this. And then, but I loved it because it was so different. Yeah. And you know, yet it had its familiar moments. It had familiar characters, and it had, you know, familiar themes and music and spaceships, and there were things that were obviously similar about them, but there was a lot of different stuff. And I think that's great, because I remember when I saw Rocky 2 back in 1979, I think that's when it came out.
Yeah.
I watched it and I went, this is like the same movie again, just with, I mean, and I love Rocky 2, don't get me wrong, but it's such a remake of the first movie with a different ending.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody needs that. It's, you know, give me Rocky 3 with Clubber Lang. Now that's a movie.
I can watch Rocky 3 any day too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, for sure. The amount of times I watched that film, and I probably watched Rocky 2 like once. We get the point, we get the, you know, the twist,
yeah,
and that. But yeah, 3, I can put that on anytime.
Yeah.
My only fear for you though, John, is, and this is the pun that needs to be said, if you're going to put so much more into Ouija Shark 2, aren't you afraid of jumping the shark?
Yeah, well, I would say that the shark has been jumped by
everyone,
like
in the last
every
5 years.
filmmaker for the last 5 years. Yeah, so no, I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. You can make your Thanksgiving 3 out of sharks. It's fine. It's
right.
The world is accepted of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Amazing Bulk versus Ouija Shark. Oh, why not? Whatever comes next.
With Terrible Fest this year, the when talking to the Wild Eye guys, because your film wasn't ready yet, their request of saying what you should play is Back to Polonia. So we're playing Noah's Shark because everybody loves posting the cover for that on the internet. I haven't even watched Noah's Shark. I decided because they said so. I was like, okay, sure. We got a copy at the store at Eyesore. You don't even need to send it to me. I've got it. It's still here in the plastic. Nice. I've already said yes. It's fine. Whatever. I often put a slot in there for someone to make someone who's not even finished yet to be, oh, I've been posting clips and bits of this film I'm making because they're all for homegrown stuff. So there's usually a film that's not totally done that gets completed just before the festival, and then I play it with this fear because I haven't seen it and I'm showing it to an audience and going, I have no idea what you're getting into. That is not happening this year because there was a handful of films like that. So I have made future accommodations and plans for them. There'll be something down the road. I wanted to make sure I'd seen all these, but the only one I haven't is the one that has, I would guess, the biggest release out of the, if you could say that with Wild Eye, because you can get Wild Eye in your local Walmart. So being that it's the biggest release, that's the one film that I just went, nah, whatever. It's a Polonia film. It's Wild Eye. The audience knows what they're getting. I know what I'm getting. If anyone wants their $2 back from that, deal with it. Enjoy it. You'll want to come to see it because of the name.
Yeah, you'll get a good time out of it, I figure.
Absolutely.
I mean, the title alone.
And again, I'll probably play it at the end of the night. Everyone will be already boozed out at that point, and we'll just be like, I remember having a great time. We passed out halfway through that film. Whatever. It was a great evening of 6 films in a row. Fine. But yeah, that's luckily I pick and choose the people that come to the small theater that we have. So it's usually specific bloggers, specific fans of that kind of stuff. So they're an audience that's ready for what they're getting for. So it's an experience when they see it live. When we do the streaming online, it was wild last year or this year. No, I guess now it's last year. It's 2022 already. It was wild for us to have directors come on and talk about their films and have an audience that I have no idea who they are, people from all across the world tuning in and watching it. That was incredible too. So that's why I'm gonna kind of do a little bit of both this year. But again, as we said at the beginning of this, having a bunch of people that get it and are coming together to watch this to only have fun. They're watching this not because they're like, is this going to be the next best thing? No, they know what they're getting into. They know that they want to enjoy this for what it is, which is why I hope that even if for you and for Brett, if you guys decide to take your own time with it and you can say, this is our last one. This is our last one. I'm going to say for both of you, it's like The Undertaker and it's like Ozzy Osbourne. It's never say never, because I have a feeling all of you guys.
I want you to know that in both my case and his, anytime we've said it, it's very genuine. It's it's not it's not like James Brown walking off the stage and then they put the cape on him and he turns around, comes back. It's not like that. It's I really think I'm done and finishing. But now I'm not really in that position where I'm saying any of that. I'm more in a position of let's wait and see what comes my way, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. And there's been a lot of maybe I wills lately, so why not, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm finding that if I have the time, which this last year I really didn't. Like, I literally worked almost every day on this Ouija Shark movie, almost every single day, because effects were, heavy duty. I'd be like, okay, well, I worked all day and I have 8 seconds. That's great. It's a nice looking 8 seconds, but I have 8 seconds, and tomorrow I'll get another 8. So, this year, maybe I didn't do as many other people's things. I say that, but I did help with Galaxy Warriors, doing some of the spaceship special effects. And I edited a movie called Beneath the Old Dark House, directed by Matt Cloud. So I did the editing for that movie. So, I mean, I did that somehow and the other things too. So, but I think, if I hadn't been so concentrated on every day on one thing, I might have even done more stuff. But,
it's an addiction. It's a sickness.
It is. It really is.
I figure if you have a gift at some point in your life, we don't all get it, but if you do have a gift where you can wait for good ideas to come to you, as opposed to having to
Yeah.
wake up every day and go, all right, here's the list of ideas that I have to come up with. I have to force thinking. I used to write copy for a radio station, and I used to have to like write comedy bits for people, and I didn't, it wasn't even me doing it. And so every day, all I had to do was give ideas. And if I look back on that, they're some of the worst ideas I've ever had, but it was needed on a daily basis. It was like working for like
Yeah.
a talk show host. You see what Johnny Carson's jokes were like. He didn't even try anymore because they knew the whole joke was I had to write this every day. So they're going to get worse and worse and worse. There's a charm to that. It's a needed thing.
Sure.
I would probably do it again, as opposed to the time I've too much time on my hands I've had in the last few months. But I've luckily just changed that. So let's not jinx these, crossing toes as well. But but when the gift does come to you, which has happened at times in my life, where you don't have to wake up to make your work, that you can decide, I can wait till it's a good idea, till I know that this is the idea I have to do, not the idea that I have to do because my brain tells me I have to do it, not because I have to get up and make sure I have some product tomorrow to show to somebody. It's a feeling that not many people get to experience, but when you do, enjoy the hell out of it because it will make the best creative stuff. You know, when you're a writer and you have to like expect by contract to make a book every year, which is, it's the problem of the wonder of being a low budget person, when you're like, okay, this year I can budget myself so it's not my everything. It's not everything I have to do. So then when I feel this scene is good, I will make this scene the scene. If it's not, I just won't do it. Imagine being someone who's like, you have to make this in 3 months. It has to be done. And
well, I've had that. I've had that. And even with this movie, because of the pandemic, I said to Wild Eye, I'm going to need a year to do this, because I don't know when things are opening up again. I don't know how long they'll open up for. And I was unfortunately a little prophetic with that, because I was thinking, most people I think last year were thinking, come April, come May, everything's going to open, it'll all go back to normal. And because I had this contract to do a film, I was like, yeah, but what if it doesn't? I better kind of plan this out so that, December I'm writing the script. That's good because I don't have to see anybody or work with anybody. And then, I got to make the monsters that are in the movie. Okay, I'll spend, most of January doing that. That's good. I'll be by myself. And then it was like, okay, we're still in lockdown. I'll film all the special effects in my studio, and I'll spend the next couple of months just shooting and editing special effects. And I did that. And then we got to April. I'm like, God damn, I've got 25 minutes of this movie done. I need to shoot actors and everything's still closed. So,
well, the worst was it goes back to normal. So you're like, oh, okay. And you relax. And then it's only a month of normal. And then it's back to being that way again.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I didn't relax. Soon as it was that we could shoot people, I was like, get them in here. Let's start getting them in here. So once I was allowed to have, one extra person in my house, it was like, okay, bring in this one actor. We shot all his scenes. He was all in front of green screen. His whole role was in front of a green screen. So we shot everything with him. And then I spent weeks putting his scenes together. And then the movie was 35 minutes long. And then, it's like, okay, I need bring in this one. I brought in a lot of actors one at a time, or eventually when I could bring in more, 2 or 3 at a time. And it was rough going, trying to get everybody in and shoot what I was trying to shoot.
Well, that's professional planning. I'll tell you, when it does feel, or because I don't know. I don't say, I say everything tentative now. I don't say anything not being tentative. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm jinxing myself. But as soon as I do feel, and a group of people that I like to work with feel it as well, man, I'm taking a whole bunch of people out into the woods for like a week just to film anything. I'll make it up on the spot if it has to.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden I know, okay, we're good this week. I don't have any ideas. Who cares? Grab 2 cameras. Let's go. So I
Yeah.
can do something without a green screen, which I may have
Yeah.
forgotten how to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see. Time will only tell, which means we're gonna have Ouija Shark 2 out sooner than you know now. It's gonna, it's maybe just around the corner for all we know.
I sent it to the distributor yesterday.
So again, my toes are crossed as well as my fingers. So we'll see what happens. Regardless, I know we won't be seeing the last of you, John. We'll see more of you in the future. We look forward to it. Thanks so much for coming and chatting with us. And
no problem.
I will make sure the world knows as soon as it happens. I remember when Brett didn't know they had a trailer out, sending Brett the trailer for that.
Yeah.
When you didn't know that they had posted on their Instagram a photo of your movie well before it had gone into place.
Yeah.
So trust me.
No idea.
I'll let you know when it comes out.
Yeah, that's good. Please do.
I'll have it on advanced order at the store, so don't worry.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great one. Thanks again.
Change is good. Stick with us.